Rock, paper, silverfish. Yan ya chao, cha zhou no. When people vanish, the tea turns cold. My mom tells me this as a warning. She means, don't get too close to people who seem friendly. To crazy professors named Kip, to the poetry club I helped build over the last 3 years. The more attached I get, the more it'll hurt when I have to say goodbye. I am afraid to leave, afraid to touch anything that lasts less than forever. I don't use pencils these days. My professor said we should only write in pen because ink makes our words permanent. Saying these words out loud, I know that they won't survive. I haven't said anything funny or weird enough to be quotable. Close your mouth. Stay true to yourself. I still write poetry because it's the one thing you always liked about me, but what do you remember about my poetry? If you can't remember any of my words, then did I actually say them out loud? How much of this will you remember? Will you remember Jason Chun? He's my grandfather. He's famous. Have you seen his calligraphy? Have you seen how the strokes caress each other without ever touching, how the ink curves with enough grace to make any woman jealous? Will you promise me something? Will you promise to remember? Promise to remember not just my grandfather's calligraphy, but also how he went bare-chested in the summer heat of Guangzhou, wore only shorts and sandals from his 7 a.m. writing sessions to his 7 p.m. shouting matches with the soccer game on TV. Remember that even on those sweltering days, he couldn't turn down a steaming bowl of beef noodle soup. That even though he could have owned a mansion, he saved up all his money and chose to live in a tiny apartment that still had a squat toilet. That he saved up all his money because he wanted to buy rocks. Remember how my grandfather collected so many heavy, vaguely dragon-shaped rocks that my grandmother complained they were living in a museum? How he loved rocks so much that he became focused and determined as one, how he thought himself invincible, permanent. How he finally met his match in tuberculosis. When my grandfather was wheeled through those sanitized corridors past the blue masks and white coats, he said to my grandmother, "Such a huge hospital. Can't cure my illness?" I visited him in China when I was 12. He died before I turned 13. I have already forgotten what it feels like to be in the same room with him. My mom tells me, when people vanish, the tea turns cold. She never expected those words to apply to her own father. After all, Jason Chun left behind hundreds of thousands of scrolls, hundreds of thousands of chances to be remembered, permanent, famous. My grandfather was famous. My mom wants to keep his tea warm forever, to hold the kettle to her chest and pour out cups of his brilliance only for me to drink. I'm a writer like Jason Chun. I'm not quotable yet, but in the future, I could be famous. I could leave my own legacy in ink. But even if the ink survives, the paper will decay. Sometimes, when we take my grandfather's calligraphy out from dusty shelves or under the bed, when we carefully unfurl those scrolls, we find holes in the paper. We catch beetles and cockroaches and, worst of all, silverfish. Hideous gray things that scramble like lizards and get their nutrients from paper. Vermin that will probably be dead before you get your next paycheck. Uncaring, unknowing insects feasting on the legacy of my dead grandfather. I can't do anything but kill them. I even feel sorry for them. They're just trying to survive, just like you or me, just like my grandfather. In the future, no one is famous. Nothing we say will be remembered. The only difference between people and silverfish is that people survive just a little bit longer, but when people vanish,